One of my favorite genres growing up back in the day was platforming games. So in today's video, it's been something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but I wanted to count down my top 25 greatest platformers, best of all time. Now, it's very important that you guys know that this is not a definitive list or objectively best list of platformers. It's just simply my favorite top 25 best platforming games that I love of all time. Now, I know my list will probably differ greatly from you guys out there, so please make sure to comment down below what your favorite platforming games are and why. And of course, I'll be looking through and commenting and talking with all of you guys. Now, I also want to note here that we're not going to be putting any type of Metroidvania style games or Metroid games on this list, as I have separate lists for more of the action adventure platformer or action adventure games that those titles are going to go on in the future. Kind of looking for more of the pure platformers or platforming based with some other elements. Now that we got all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into number 25, and that is Shovel Knight. This is a game that came out originally on the Wii U, then was ported over to all other systems. I loved it so much on the Wii U because it came out at a time when there wasn't really a ton of great Wii U games on the system. They had some stuff. There was some stuff coming in 2014, but Shovel Knight really helped out because it was a high quality game. It was an independent title. It was something that was affordable as well, and it was something that people could play. And I really enjoy the gameplay mechanics. If you ever played the DuckTales game, it's very much kind of like that a little bit with Shovel Knight, but it has a lot of aspects of other classic Mario games and other great platforming titles of yesteryear. The graphics are on point. The gameplay is very fun. The music is good as well. The level design, replay value, all of that is there with the hidden collectibles and everything. So I really enjoyed Shovel Knight for what it was and when it came out. And to me, it's one of the best platformers, one of the games that I had the most fun with. So that's why it makes it number 25 on my list. Coming in at number 24, Kirby Superstar from the Super Nintendo. People forget this, but this was a pretty crazy game when it released back in the day, mid to late 90s-ish. I remember renting it so many times and eventually having enough money to buy it back in the day. But what makes this game super cool, because they kind of marketed it as, not even kind of, it was 8 games all in one. You had different game modes: Spring Breeze, Dynablade, Gourmet Race, The Great Cave Offensive, Revenge of Meta Knight, Milky Way Wishes, The Arena, and sub games with mini games and all of that. So you kind of got a little bit of everything with this game. And if you're someone like me that didn't have as much money back then, you felt like you were getting a lot more value and gameplay variety for your buck. But it's also a great game just overall. Yes, there's a lot of different things that's happening, and some people might not like the scattered focus of the different varieties or styles, but it's still Kirby. You're still doing all the stuff that you do in a Kirby game, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that it's a bit underrated. I know some people wouldn't have it in their top 25, but I really love the different gameplay styles and mechanics, and I think that it's a little bit of a sleeper hit when you look back at some of the best platformers of all time. Nobody mentions this game, but I'm going to mention it, and I know it's not quite pure platforming because there's other things in here, but to me, Kirby still synonymous with platforming and everything, so I wanted to have it in here, and I feel that it is a fantastic game when it comes to the different styles of gameplay and platforming and action that it does have. So Kirby Superstar makes the number 24 on my list. Coming in at number 23, Spyro Reignited Trilogy. This is a high-end remake slash remaster, whatever you want to call it, of the original Spyro trilogy. And I wasn't ever the biggest on Spyro. I played the games back in the day. My friends had it, and I'd go to their place and play it. But it wasn't really until I played this Reignited Trilogy that I really felt like, man, I was missing out on a bit. But they did so many things to make the controls better. Obviously, the graphics are better, but the feel and the, I would say, experience of Spyro remains intact, like the physics and some of the things, but it just feels so much better to play overall. And these Spyro games are still very fun. The level design is good, the combat in there is very good, the platforming is still solid overall, I really enjoyed my time with Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and I feel that you could take any one of the individual Spyro games and kind of sprinkle them throughout a top 25 platformer list or not, but I felt that this really encapsulates everything that is great about the Spyro game, so I wanted to have it on my list, and I still feel that it's good enough to stand on its own 2 feet as a fantastic trilogy and a great all-in-one package. So Spyro Reignited Trilogy makes it a number 23 on my list. Next up at number 22, Rayman Origins. Man, this game is a ton of fun, but you have to start out when you're talking about Rayman Origins with the art style, the hand-drawn type of look for it, the expressions, the music, the gameplay, the smoothness. This was the full package in terms of a 2D platformer when it came out. And I think what I really liked about Rayman Origins is how they actually put together the levels. It wasn't simply just you're just going around and jumping 2D. There was a lot of different things that happened within the levels that created you to be stressed a little bit when it comes to collecting certain things, or even just how the level flowed all together. It felt like you can just go through and have fun in terms of exploring the depths of the level, but then also have some really cool fast levels that you can get through. So it was the variety in addition to how the levels are laid out that makes Rayman Origins such a joy to play overall. So I highly recommend you guys checking it out. I think it's one of the best platformers with this fantastic level design, on top of it having an incredible art style. Rayman Legends makes the number 22 on my list. Coming in at number 21 is a classic from the Sega Genesis, and that is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I'm going with here. Sonic 2, when it came out, was a major deal in the 90s. This was the Attitude Sega Genesis era, and everyone was saying Sonic was the coolest video game character around, myself included. The speed in the game seemed unreal. The addition of Tails to the mix in terms of the multiplayer aspects and racing, and having him as Sonic's sidekick in action right then and there was awesome. Second player pick up and play. I thoroughly enjoyed every time I got a chance to play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and then eventually I was able to buy the game myself and play through it multiple times and beat the game. I think it's fantastic. There's so many cool things about Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Obviously, you've got the speed, you've got the loops that you can do, you've got the bonus levels. That was always super fun, almost felt like a real 3D game back then. And you've got the incredible music. I can sit here and talk about how great Sonic's music is forever. We don't have that type of time, but Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has one of the greatest soundtracks that I've ever heard. It was so good, and it still is so good to this time, on top of the cool boss battles, on top of the level design, the different themes of everywhere. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is everything that you'd want in a 90s platformer, and still holds up incredibly well in today's day. So Sonic the Hedgehog 2 makes the number 21 on my list. If you're enjoying this video, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Click that notification bell to get my top 25 lists and videos first as well. Now let's go ahead and jump right back into it. At number 20, we got another Sonic game, Sonic Mania. This game is awesome. It's everything that I love about classic 2D Sonic, and brought together with a new coat of paint, remixed. It's got the same tight controls, it's got the great graphics, it's got the incredible music, and more importantly than anything, it's got the level flow. The flow of Sonic Mania to me is even better than many of the current 2D platformers that come out in today's day. You can check out Sonic Mania. It came out back in 2017 or so for the Nintendo Switch and other platforms, and it was just a revolution. People love this game, myself included, to the point to where the history of 2D platformers and the history of platformers out there, Sonic Mania makes it into my top 20, which is a very high honor, because I've been playing pretty much every single platformer since the beginning of them back in the day. Sonic Mania is every bit as good as advertised, and that's why it makes the number 20 on my list. Next up at number 19 is Super Mario 3D Land. This is a little bit of a forgotten 3D platformer out there, but let me tell you guys something. You can go back, pick up your crusty Nintendo 3DS and play Super Mario 3D Land, and you're gonna be like, wow, that's an incredible 3D platformer. It still looks great, it runs great, and if you want to use the 3D feature, it actually does help out with a smaller screen and jumping on the different platforms and navigating, and it just makes the game look a lot cleaner as well. Now, at the time, I couldn't necessarily use the 3D all the time because it would cook your battery and you'd have to hold it really still, and I didn't like doing that. But sometimes for certain levels, I would absolutely sit down, crank up that 3D and use it, then turn it right back off. But Super Mario 3D Land has great structure. I think that it's a lot of fun to play through. The power-ups were great, reminding me of old school Mario, as if like an old school 2D Mario game was made in 3D. That's what Super Mario 3D Land reminded me of. It was pure bliss playing through. Thoroughly enjoyed some of the boss battles, kind of the whimsical nature of it, the levels that kind of auto-scrolled, all of the good stuff that you'd expect from Mario is in this game in a very bite-sized package, so I loved every bit of it. So Super Mario 3D Land makes it number 19 on my list. Coming in at number 18 is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This is one of the most polished and best 3D games out there. There really isn't anything particularly wrong with it outside of the 30 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch, but pretty much everything else is absolutely brilliant, from the gameplay design, the level design, the secrets in the overworld, the different characters that are in the game. The music is really good, the graphics are fantastic. There's so many cool things about this game that makes you want to go back to it and play it over and over. And then even after you beat the game, there's a ton of difficult and challenging things to do as well. So Kirby and the Forgotten Land just makes me smile anytime that I think about the game, and I cannot wait to see what they're going to do next to top this game, because they did a lot here, and it shows in the sales as well, because this game is going on 8 million copies, easily the best-selling Kirby game of all time. And that's because they did such a great job with the platforming, with the action, and with the levels, with the design of the game. So Kirby and the Forgotten Land makes the number 18 on my list. Coming in at number 17, Sonic and Knuckles. This was a game that just blew me away back in the day, and honestly still blows me away at times in modern days, because Sonic and Knuckles to me represented the super cool Sega era, just like Sonic 2. But Sonic and Knuckles even somehow took that further, because Knuckles was an all red dude with the spiky hair, big old huge knuckles that can fly or soar through the sky and latch onto walls and climb up. That was just dope. The gameplay mechanic is still super fun to do, and it had a very unique thing. If you had the original Sega Genesis cartridge, you can plug in like Sonic 2 and all that on top of it, or maybe even other games, but I just did it with Sonic 2 and used Knuckles in there. It felt like it was like one of the original ways of doing like DLC or something like that. So it was awesome in terms of the functionality when I was playing it back then, but the gameplay is great too, having both of those characters to play. They were very different in terms of how they navigated the levels as well, so that was super fun. I still feel Sonic and Knuckles is one of the best and has one of the most iconic cartridges of all time. When you saw that cartridge, you saw cool and you saw fun. So Sonic and Knuckles, with all of its great gameplay that you know and love from classic Sonic, but with the addition of Knuckles and varying it up, I had to make it in my top 25 and in at number 17. Number 16, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Now, Super Mario 3D World, the base game, is awesome, but 3D World plus Bowser's Fury definitely showed us maybe a little bit of the future, but also has such a solid base of platforming action. One, you can play it online with your friends. They added that in there. If you have good connections, it works well enough, which is fun to do for the most part. I mean, depends on who your friends are, but it's still fun to do. If you have family, playing a full 3D Mario game where you can play every single level no matter what with multiplayer, I think that was the first for the series, simultaneous multiplayer right then and there for a 3D game. That was awesome. The levels were super fun to go through, whether single player or multiplayer. You also had the outstanding Bowser's Fury, which added a whole new gameplay dynamic and level structure as a true open-ended Mario game, 3D Mario game, to where you can tackle the stars or the challenges how you saw fit and move around in a space without being being constructed to levels and going in and out and having the loading screens and all that, which was just super cool. But even with the base game, you have great power-ups, you have cool different characters that all have their own abilities, so you can pick and choose in terms of what strategy you want to play for a level. There's a lot of secret levels as well and different things to do. They have so much fun stuff packed into this game. I felt that it was just incredible for what they're doing. Plus the Captain Toad levels, which was like really cool thing that they added in, which got its own game as well. So there was a lot of good ideas that I really enjoyed with Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and that's why it makes the number 16 on my list. Coming in at number 15 is the Mega Man X games. Mega Man X1, X2, and X3. I guess you can say the collection, but either way, Mega Man X1 through 3, I pretty much all have them there because I played them all kind of like back to back to back. First Mega Man X, and then I didn't have the money for X2 and X3, so I waited. So then I just kept on playing all of them and renting till I could actually afford them and play all of them through again. And I love Mega Man X. I think that the different parts that you can get, that was super cool. I think that the story was dope as well. Having Zero in there was also really cool to see him. I think just like I would say Sega with Sonic, Mega Man was also seen as just like some of the coolest character design, especially Mega Man X. I mean, Mega Man the Blue Bomber, kind of corny looking at times, but still was cool. But Mega Man X, it was like, yeah, he's ascended. It was almost like going Super Saiyan back in the day. So I love Mega Man. And of course, the classic Mega Man design is all there, but just with really cool, shiny power-ups. You get the different robot leaders' powers. You use those to beat other robot leaders. Then you go and take down Dr. Wily and all of his other henchmen along the way. Plus, you're getting a pretty cool dystopian type of story as well at times in the far future. So I love Mega Man X1, X2, and X3. They're all dope, and the graphical look of them for the Super Nintendo was just insane. Forgot which one or all of them had to use like an extra chip too built into the cartridge. So Mega Man X1, X2, X3 make it in at number 15 on my list. Even though it's 3 games, I love them all equally. 15 on the list. Coming in at number 14, Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy. Very much like the Spyro trilogy of games, Crash Bandicoot taking the original games and making them look way better, but have the same feel, have the same touch, have the same vibes, same levels, but just graphics and everything are enhanced. Music, everything just sounds, looks great. I love Crash Bandicoot, and particularly if I had to pick one, it would be Crash Bandicoot 2. That to me, when I played it back in the day on the PS1, blew me away. And then when I played it again, when it comes to the PlayStation 4 version of Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy, I was just shocked at how much I love this game. Not even shocked, but just kind of reminded me like the memories and the flavor of the game. So what that tells me is that it transcends the time. It's not just good for its time back then when it came out on PS1, it's still good now overall, because it's not like they changed a bunch of stuff with the gameplay and all of that. It's still the difficult, blisteringly fun Crash Bandicoot that you all know and love. But even how they did things with Crash Bandicoot, how you go into the screen and how you run away with certain stuff and obstacles coming at you, how you spin around and you collect the Womba Fruit, and there's bonus levels and there's all sorts of stuff. It just makes it super fun to play and challenging, which is great. You always want something that's going to challenge your skills as a gamer. At least that's how it was back then. I think it still is like that a little bit now in today's day, and Crash Bandicoot will still kick your butt in today's day. That's why I still have it up here at number 14. It's that good. Next up at number 13 is Donkey Kong Country, the original from the Super Nintendo. And this was one of the games when I first saw it, I was like, I must play this game, and I might have to dedicate my life to this game. That I was young, obviously, and I wasn't gonna dedicate really my life to this game, but I sped run it like there was YouTube back then, which there wasn't. I sped run it like there was something, like I was winning a prize. I used to play this game all the time, over and over, looking for every single secret, but it was just so fun. But all of the difficulty, just like Crash Bandicoot, was great in there. I thought that the different animal buddies was so fun back in the day. I thought that was one of the best things finding bonus levels, blasting off to get those and collect all the different golden statues that you can get, collecting your banana horde, fighting against King K. Rool, the Kremlins. The boss level design was just always so dope, and even after you beat the game, you just wanted to reset it and start right back over again and see what you can do differently, or see much farther you can get, or replay your files. So it was always fun to go through and play Donkey Kong, and it still holds up today. You can play Donkey Kong Country and just be like, all right, yeah, this is very, very good. So Donkey Kong Country, with its awesome gameplay, level design, music, oh man, can't forget the music. Music was legendary in this game. Makes it in at number 13 on my list. Coming in at number 12, Rayman Legends, a legendary game in my opinion. This game has the, I would say, vibe of platforming and flow locked down. You can just really just boom, jam it through levels, whether you're a professional or not. But I think that the smoothness of the controls, the gameplay, the fun of it just really just kind of comes to a head, just like it was with Rayman Origins. But they just took that base game and said, okay, we're gonna make the graphics look better, we're gonna make the gameplay flow more, we're gonna do better variety within there, we're gonna give you guys different characters to use. There's so much other things that they added to Rayman Legends to make it easily one of the best platformers of all time, and I really enjoy what they've done here with the game. I thought it was super cool to see some of the other stuff that they added in terms of extras, and like the soccer mini game that you can play and all that. It's just a very, very fun time, and not really much wrong with it, or really anything wrong with it at all. Tons of secrets to collect, a lot of variety within the levels, between swimming and up high up in the air, on land, all sorts of stuff. You're going everywhere, and there's a lot of levels to go through too when you count all of the bonus stuff that you can do in the game. So Rayman Legends makes them number 12 on my list. Coming in at number 11, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. Now, I know in today's day, some people might feel, man, this game is so hard, it's like almost unbeatable. And you would be correct. This game's difficulty was absolutely turned up, and that's what I loved about it back in the day. That's what I love about it now. It will kick your butt, and that's what platformers are supposed to do, because they're generally kind of short, so you don't want it to be a cakewalk so you're done in like 30 minutes or something. So Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest, not only did it bring a new Kong in with Dixie, who is Diddy's girlfriend, and that was awesome to get some more lore and different Kongs in at the time, but also the level design and the structure of the game was super cool. I loved how Dixie can spin her hair so you can kind of like ease your away or landing, which I think that they probably felt that that would make up for the game being so hard, but obviously it's still really hard. But I thought that it was super cool to not have Donkey Kong in. He's like captured, so even like the story stuff, I've been somewhat interested throughout the years in the Donkey Kong story. Although it's kind of minimalistic at times, it's super cool to see what happens from game to game, because story's never too much of an emphasis, but it's interesting nonetheless. So when they said that Donkey Kong was kidnapped and captured and you have to use Diddy and Dixie in order to get him, I was like, cool, I like Diddy Kong. He was super cool in the original game, so I get to use him and his girlfriend. Dope. And then I proceeded to get my butt kicked in everything with this game, but I had so much fun. I played and beat it multiple times, and to me it still holds up very well overall. So Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest makes the number 11 on my list. All right, guys, we are in the top 10. Let's go ahead and jump into it with Mario 64 at 10. And when it comes to the impact of Mario 64, if we were talking about that, then maybe it's number 1. Now, I still feel that there are some things that I would have liked to see in the game in terms of power-ups and stuff that you can do in levels, but I still feel overall the game is so good. It's got a ton of different stars to collect. Obviously, at the time, it was groundbreaking for its controls and for what it did, even with the camera. I know people complain about that in today's day, but it was groundbreaking for a game to be controlled in 3D 3D like that. And you also had a lot of really cool things like riding on the turtle shell and flying with the cap and having levels completely in the air and having to fly through and do those. And also levels that were underground and in water and all sorts of stuff. Mario 64 truly brought like these 64-bit graphics when bits were a thing. They really brought that to the forefront, and to me created a legendary type of game and kind of showed people what it's like or how to get 3D platforming done, because nobody really had done it in a very cohesive and good way up to the level before Mario 64. So Mario 64 makes the number 10 on my list. Next up at number 9 is Donkey Kong Country Returns. Now we do have Donkey Kong Country Returns HD coming out in 2025 as of the time that I'm recording this video, but the original is still very good to play. It's a lot of fun. It reminds me if they just took the original Donkey Kong Country and said, okay, we're kind of doing a reboot here, which it kind of is that, but they added a lot of cool stuff. It's a ton of fun to play through, and I felt that the levels in this game, especially playing co-op, when I played it with my brother, it was just brilliant. You're working together, you're having a ton of fun. There's all sorts of different types of levels that they do, the silhouette type of stuff and everything. It was just a super fun game to play at the time, and still is very good, ran smooth and everything. Now the only issue, at least for me, was the motion controls and some of the stuff that they forced you to do in the game. But even outside of that, it was still really fun to play overall, and I had a blast going through, heck, literally like blasting through different stuff with the levels and the secrets and the animal buddies, Rambi and everything. It just kind of zapped me back to the early 90s or so when Donkey Kong Country came out on the Super Nintendo, and I felt, oh yeah, Donkey Kong is back and better than ever. So Donkey Kong Country Returns makes the number 9 on my list. Coming in at number 8 is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. And a lot of people felt a little weird about this game when it came out, but not me. I loved it. Yes, you had a crying baby Mario all over the place. Yeah, I get that. But Yoshi and what he could do, the fact that you can like suck up watermelons and spit seeds at people like bullets, was super cool. The fact that there was also different types of music and the graphical style of this game just looked nuts. What they did with some of the enemies in there blew me away back then. So I really enjoyed it, and I felt that the Yoshi gameplay, him passing off, you know, baby Mario to each different Yoshi, was super cool. And just the whole setup of the game, level variety, the bosses in there, everything to me just spoke quality, and not just giving us the same thing, but giving us something kind of similar, but a whole different gameplay style. So we're not just playing the same game over again. So I thought that was pretty cool. Little controversial when it came out, but man, I loved this game and thought it was awesome. So Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island makes the number 8 on my list. Coming up at number 7 is Super Mario World. Got Mario World 2, now we got Super Mario World, and this game was a revolution when it launched with the Super Nintendo. Everybody was talking about it. Have you seen the commercials? Have you seen the gameplay? Have you seen what Mario can do? He's bigger, he's beefier, he's got a mustache. You can see that mustache full in and full through, man. He's got a cape, he can fly, he can do all sorts of stuff. And there's Yoshi. Yoshi, he can ride on top of Yoshi. He's really super now at this point. This is Super Mario, and it was so cool. There were so many things in this game, and if you weren't playing Super Mario World, I don't know what you were doing if you were alive at that time and actually could play video games. Man, you would go to a friend's house to play it. You would try to find somebody who had the game if you didn't have it yourself. But I remember when we first got it, I think I got it back in like 1991 or 1992. Forgot exactly when, but man, when I first played it, I was hooked. It's still really good, and that's the mark of all of these games here. You can pop in any of these games and it still plays really good, but Super Mario World is one of those games to me is an elite when it comes to the replay value. One, just kind of finding everything in the game and going through and finding all the secret exits and the special worlds and all that, but also just for how the game is aged. The game is aged incredibly well, still super smooth and fun to play with the controls. So Super Mario World makes it the number 7 on my list. Next up, coming in at number 6 is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. And yeah, this game is awesome. They took what Returns did and said, oh no, we're gonna make things even better. And I think that there's about 3 key points, for me at least, that makes it better than what we saw before with previous Donkey Kong games, and probably the best Donkey Kong game of all time. And to me, the boss battles are so much better in this game than any other Donkey Kong game. On top of that, you also have the level structure and the different Kongs that you can use. You have more characters that you can use in this game, and it's not just stupid collectathons like the Donkey Kong game on the N64. This game was actually reasonable, so that's why that game was not on my list at all, although I know some people love it. But to me, this is the best one because it has that variety with the different Kongs you can use. They do have different gameplay abilities, they have different animal buddies, but the level structure and the difficulty always seems fair. The challenges are packed into there, the replay value. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is completely the full Donkey Kong package, and I think pretty much the pinnacle of what you can do in a 2D Donkey Kong game. And I'm pretty sure they can think of some more stuff and obviously add more levels and different things, but man, Tropical Freeze really felt like they reached the top of what you can do, and it still plays that way. I mean, the game is from 2014. There was a Switch port later down the line, and people are still buying and playing the game to this point. So Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze makes it in at number 6 on my list. All right, guys, we're in the top 5. Getting into number 5 is Super Mario Galaxy. And man, Super Mario Galaxy, when that came out back in 2007 on the Wii, it was the game. This was the game of the year. This was the game in a stacked year that had a lot of different types of games, a lot of good games at the time. But for me, this was the number 1 game. It was so fun to go through. You took Mario, which a character that we've been using for decades, that we've been playing through, but it took and put him in space, something that you'd maybe see as like a fan game or something like that. But no, it was official, and the physics and mechanics of Galaxy were just so fun at the time. And they tried to use the Wii Remote in cool ways, which collecting the star bits, shooting the star bits, stuff like that was kind of cool, and some of the levels where you can control, but it wasn't really about that to me. To me, it was about the fast, snappy gameplay where you're blasting off from one planet to another, bite-sized little challenges right then and there, moving on, getting the next star, getting in and out of the levels, and then just having a ton of different levels to go through and what to play with pinpoint controls and very fun physics that manipulated the gameplay and design for you to go through it. And the bosses were also really cool too, so it was kind of like a full course Mario meal where you had everything that you've always wanted in Mario games, where there's some 2D sections, where there's some sections that are kind of traditional 3D platforming, and then where there's some crazy new stuff that they added in with physics and being able to jump around and do crazy things in a space setting. So Super Mario Galaxy, with this awesome music, level design, gameplay, graphics, everything was just on point, makes it number 5 on my list. Next up at number 4 is Super Mario Odyssey. And I feel like this is one of those games that if you just play it the first time through, you're like, okay, yeah, that's really good, but maybe it's missing something. But then when you go back and start playing it again and really start exploring some of the depth of it, yes, there's a lot of like annoying different stars to collect or whatever the case is, or moons to collect. But what it's best, like if you take like the best levels and what it does with the bosses and the variety, that to me is peak. It's one of the best 3D Mario games, one of the best platformers that I've ever played. And looking at it from a technological perspective, graphics and frame rate wise, it holds up incredibly well. There's still no other big 3D platformers on the Nintendo Switch that even come close to this game. And even overall, if you're looking at a lot of other 3D platformers out there, which is a genre that's not made too much when it comes to the AAA space, man, Super Mario Odyssey still holds up incredibly well. And the design of the levels and where you go to and the characters and the outfits and everything just make it a joy to play and very fun. Controls are really good, which is always important in a platformer. The music is really good as well. And to me, all the different types of ways that you can possess enemies and get different power-ups and abilities really shot this game up the list for me overall, because its variety and how fun it was to go through. And pure fun is always a huge determining factor for a platformer, because you're not really there for like the story or a lot of other things, but the pure fun of it combined with the controls and everything just makes this game so great to me. So Super Mario Odyssey makes it number 4 on my list. Coming in at number 3, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I 100% of the game, and the last thing, no spoilers, but the last level in this game is pure torture, but everything outside of that was awesome. I love the more difficult levels kind of mixed in there, where you can unlock them if you do certain things within each section of the game. I felt that being able to use all the different characters that you wanted to use was fun as well, although they're all pretty much the same. But what sets things apart with the gameplay is the Wonder Badges. You can pick different Wonder Badges. They have an ability, and you can use that to get through or aid yourself in tougher levels or not, or some levels that are pretty much custom made or tailor designed for certain badges. So I really enjoyed it. And if you look at what else it does, just overall as a game, you have the online multiplayer that you can play with your friends, kind of like racing and going through with zero lag. Yeah, it's not the real time like the new Super Mario Bros. And some of the other ones, but I think that it creates no lag, which is also really good. And of course, you have some of the passive multiplayer with the ghost data and stuff that people can be running around and see what people are doing. So it's just a really fun game, but also like the Wonder Powers, man. The Wonder Powers were crazy and zany, and exactly how you felt a Mario game to me should evolve, especially after seeing how weird a game like Super Mario World 2 looks. I felt like the developers looked back at a game like that and said, okay, we can make weird levels and weird stuff that happens, or even things like touch fuzzy, get dizzy. Maybe that was an inspiration for them with some of the wonder effects, where you get the wonder effects and then things can get really weird and transform right there in real time. So I had a blast going through the game, and I feel that out of all of the Mario games, this might have the best controls overall for how Mario feels to run, jump, platforming. I mean, pretty much anytime that there was something that happened on screen, there was a mistake, I always felt like, hey, it was my fault. It wasn't because the controls were finicky or the camera was bad or something else happened. It was just my fault overall. Super Mario Bros. Wonder has a great feel and touch to it, fantastic levels, cool wonder effects, awesome badges that you can use. It's the full 2D Mario Bros. Package, and that's why it made it number 3 on my list. Coming in at number 2, Super Mario Galaxy 2, and this game is essentially perfect when it comes down to it. The only beef that I have with it is some of the motion control stuff with the Wii Remote not being able to use a classic controller, but that's a small minor gripe compared to everything else this game does. I love the fact that they made everything on like a normal map for this one instead of like a hub world where you're going to different things. I like how you can get right into the levels. I think it's really cool to be able to play through pretty much, essentially it's a DLC pack, but it's a super expanded DLC pack made into its own game with all the different content that you would expect for a full Mario game. But this game, Super Mario Galaxy 2, to me really trumps the first game and many other games on this list in the boss battle category. Like the boss battles in here, combined with the different power-ups you get, like the cloud power-up and stuff, was super fun to go through. Obviously, bringing back Yoshi was awesome in specific certain levels. I would have loved to see it a bit more, but it was still cool to bring back Yoshi. The different power-ups that you get in this game were just tons of fun. The graphics and the music were on point as well. Looked like Mario Galaxy, maybe a little bit sharper, pretty much looked like Mario Galaxy, but it was still really good and easily one of the best looking games. And why people still to this day want them to put Mario Galaxy 2 on the Nintendo Switch, because we got Mario Galaxy 1, but what about the better game, which is Mario Galaxy 2? So I loved everything about this game when it came out back in 2010. I 100%ed the game, played it, loved it. It's so good and still holds up very much with its controls and its design, the levels and everything. So Mario Galaxy 2 makes the number 2 on my list. And coming in at number 1 is Super Mario Bros. 3. To me, this was the original big bad 2D platformer, and why I love Super Mario Bros. 3. But even really, if you're looking at this, 1 through 5, man, can be somewhat interchangeable. All of these games are awesome, but to me, Mario Bros. 3 has everything that you would want in the Mario experience. It's got so many different power-ups, but it's got the cool power-ups. You got a frog suit, you've got a Hammer Bros suit, you got the Tanuki suit, you got the raccoon suit, you've got all these different things you can do. You've got a bunch of secrets, you've got the difficulty built in, not the hardest platformer out there, but definitely not super easy overall. You've got a lot of different environments and worlds to go through. You've got so many things in this game. Mario Bros. 3 was a revolution when it came out, man. It was so big, man. They needed a movie to help promote this game.
Super Mario Mario Brothers 3!
With the wizard, Mario Bros 3 has it all, and the graphics, even if you're looking at it, I mean, you could say like Super Mario All-Stars, that version of Mario Bros 3 as well, and just that package just in general, Super Mario Bros All-Stars is really good on the Super Nintendo because they're essentially remakes of the original Mario games. But yeah, it looks great, it runs great, it still plays really good in today's day. Tons of different power-ups, levels were great, flying up into the air with various different power-ups, swimming with the frog suit, Hammer Bros suit was dope, being able to knock people out with hammers. You have all the different areas that you can go to. You have the big world where you can get inside like a huge like shoe that jumps and have fun. I mean, there's just so much variety. It'll never get old knocking out massive Goombas. Super Mario Bros 3 is still the king of 2D platformers. So for me, Super Mario Bros 3 is still my favorite 2D platformer out there and my favorite platformer of all time. So what are your favorite platformers? That wraps it up for my list. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and make sure you check out my top 30 must-buy Nintendo Switch JRPGs if you haven't already done so, in addition to other videos right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.